Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video of Synergy Music Lessons. I'm your host Josh, and today we're going to be looking at Air in D minor by Henry Purcell. You can find this in the Level 2 RCM series, List A section. Okay, let's get started.
Okay, let's break this down. We're going to start with our key signature. We've got D minor for this piece, and how do we know that? Well, there's two reasons. First, we have one B flat in the key signature. And secondly, if we shift over to the title, it's actually right there, Air in D minor. Well, that saved us some time and effort. Okay, next we'll go over the time signature. We've got 3/4 time here. So we'll have a rhythmic footprint of strong, weak, weak. In other words, we'll be placing a stronger accent on the first beat of every bar and then a lighter one on beat 2 and 3. This will give us a bit of a waltz feeling. Take a look at some of the phrase marks on this piece. Generally, when we see a phrase, we should play legato for each of the notes that the phrase mark encapsulates. Now let's take it a little further. Think of it like a musical sentence. I usually start my spoken sentences with a little bit more emphasis and end them with a pause or a breath. Sometimes my last words carry a lighter emphasis as well. If we can apply this concept to our performance, phrases actually carry more meaning than just simply legato technique. Try emphasizing the first note of each phrase with a bit of an accent, and lift your finger away at the ends with a more gentle touch. If you do this right, you'll actually be following the conventional strong, weak, weak rhythmic footprint of 3/4 time. Also, make sure to lift your finger completely off the key once the phrase ends to simulate a breath. Here's an example of what this all sounds like together. So, were you able to hear the phrasing and time signature for this demo? Did you notice the breaks between the phrases? That's actually another reason why the finger numbers appear as so. They essentially suggest that you should move your hand, which will force you to lift the key completely between each phrase. Okay, looking at this piece overall, this style of phrasing is actually consistent throughout the entire piece. So once you've got these hand movements down in the first 4 bars, it's more of the same for each system afterwards. Let's write in a couple finger numbers to help you learn this piece quicker with some good phrasing. These finger numbers aren't set in stone, so you can use whatever fingers you like, but you might find that these suggestions help you learn the patterns of each motif quicker, since you'll be repeating the same finger numbers over and over. So there you go. That's enough on the phrasing and time signature. Let's scope out this piece for some good ways to practice. Well, we've already kind of looked at the right hand with phrasing and finger numbers, so why don't we take a look at what the left hand's doing? Well, just looking at it, overall the left hand looks like it's snaking around with its own melodic material. There's actually a lot going on between the right and left hands, but let's not make things get too complicated. At the very least, we can find some recognizable figures that can make this easier to sight read. Let's start by looking for motifs that have similar notes, intervals, and finger numbers. Here's a very common pattern, tonic to dominant to tonic, or more plainly, a lineated octave with a 5th interval in between, or a 4th depending on whether the pattern is ascending or descending. Usually we play this pattern in the left hand with the suggested finger numbers as printed on the score. 5, 2, 1. Try playing and repeating this pattern a number of times to develop a little muscle memory with it. Here's a demo. Let's see if we can find this pattern elsewhere in this piece. There it is, same figure, but the notes are descending, so instead of reading a 5th interval in the middle, let's look at this one as a 4th as we read forwards through the music. Let's keep going. Okay, so here we have different pitches, but the same intervals, so even if your hand will be in a different position, it's still going to feel the same. So here we're back to the same motif we saw earlier in bar 1. Let's look ahead and see if we can find any more. And now we're at the last bar, and we've got the same motif we found at bar 8. If you do practice loops, you'll in one way practice 4 bars of this piece all at once. That's one way to save a lot of time. Okay, let's try to find some other hints in this piece. Earlier I said that the left-hand melody is kind of snaking around a bit like a melody. In terms of technique, this is somewhat similar to scale exercises, and scales are kind of like a toolbox for melodies. Well, if you've been practicing your scale techniques, you should have by now encountered harmonic and melodic minor scales. As a quick reminder, the harmonic scale has a raised 7th degree, which in D minor is C sharp, and the melodic minor will have a raised 6th degree in addition to the raised 7th. So that gives us B natural and C sharp. We're not going to call the B a B sharp here because in D minor we have a B flat in the key signature. So raise that by a half step and it'll be a plain old B. Alright, let's see if we can find hints of these scales in this piece. Okay, there's a bunch of accidentals in just these 4 bars here. In bar 2, we've got a C sharp and a B natural. That looks like a fragment of the melodic minor scale right here. Here in bar 2, we have a C sharp, and it looks like the B flat has returned. So if we only have this raised 7th C sharp here, then we have a fragment of the harmonic scale. Looking over to bar 4, that C sharp is still there, so the harmonic scale continues. The notes might be jumping around a little bit here, but I want you to pay attention to the overall sound you hear from this phrase in comparison to the harmonic scale. Let's go over that a little bit. Now let's listen to this phrase without the raised harmonic 7th C sharp and see how the sound changes. Can you hear how the sound of the left-hand melody changes? It should sound a little different than our toolbox harmonic scale here, especially compared to the first example I showed you with the C sharp. Without the C sharp, this would actually fall into the natural minor scale, which has no pitch modifications. One way or another, as you practice, try to open your ear to the overall sound of a pattern to help you filter mistakes out as you practice. It really helps to practice one hand at a time to give you more space to focus on listening to your own sound. Alright, so these harmonic and melodic fragments are scattered all over the place in both the right hand and the left hand. As you practice, try to scope them out and compare the sheet music to the scale they belong to. This will help you tune your ear to the sound of these scales, as well as help improve your sight reading. That should be enough to get you started on this one, so good luck with practice.
That's it for today's video, guys. Hope that gives you enough to get started. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, and I'll see you around.